We're still invisible.
We're invisible still.
Welcome to Lines episode 140. Our discussion on our episode on patch 7.2 discussion part 2. Last time we talked all the way up to, I think, the dungeon. That's where we stopped.
We did talk all the way up to the dungeon.
We left it before the dungeon because I recall that.
That's why I said we talked all the way up to the dungeon.
Okay.
We didn't go past there. So this next part that we're going to get into, part 2, is where the really fun stuff comes in.
Yes, so we're going to do a dungeon tour.
Get me into the dungeon tour, and I won't shut up.
That's why I'm here.
I was trying to, mentalize myself, like, Meowth, don't go into rambles, don't speak much this episode, because if you do, you're going to go on you just ruined that, just so you know.
Here's a challenge. Don't speak anything about Final Fantasy 13 for the entire episode.
Impossible.
It's impossible.
No.
It's impossible because this is Dawntrail. The dungeon is even.
If you say anything about Final Fantasy 13, I'll mute you on Discord.
Okay.
So anyway, Vanille.
Talk about Evilise.
I don't care if you don't listen to me, as long as the audience hears me, that's fine.
Do we have 2 chats on screen? That's annoying.
We do. We're all kinds of borked.
Yeah.
It's Ultima. She's
we're good.
Hacking. She's hacking.
We still, everything's been breaking. We have double chats. We have things that don't work anymore. Our little emojis don't work. Our avatars don't work.
Next
Nothing
thing
works.
You're gonna see is our screen's gonna fade to black, and there's gonna be a U on the screen, and her voice is gonna appear in glitched format.
We're just, things are slowly falling apart. It's okay. We're still on brand.
So, just like life.
Yeah, exactly. So I hear Meowth, either laughing or choking to death. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
So anyway, last time we discussed 7.2 up to the dungeon. I have this screenshot Ayumi took of an overhead of the dungeon before we actually go into it. But we wanted to do a dungeon tour starting off this time, and then we'll really get into some more deep lore discussion, because after the dungeon we get some really, really heavy lore dumps. So
this is the castle of Alexandria before they built Everkeep around it.
Mm-hmm. That's just the base of Everkeep.
Pretty much, yeah. It pretty much looks exactly like it does, or it did when we went to the Alexandria dungeon and went to the final area. It's pretty similar in its design.
I would argue that this is from the simulation just because of the floating glitch cubes.
Right.
So.
Yeah, because I think in that, if I recall correctly, that scene, the wall is kind of recalling the time they saw the castle, which is the only time they've seen the castle is in the simulation.
Right. So I didn't realize we actually have the background music from the game going on. It's kind of nice. So that said, let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna hop into the dungeon here. In Explorer mode, because we don't want to rush.
The Underkeep.
That's right.
I have a delay on Twitch, so everything will be like a couple seconds behind for me.
No problem. I'll go slow.
if I may make a comment before Cobb starts moving around, I recall the first time I went into the dungeon, the sequence and all that, and I spent easily 5 minutes on the spot, because the first hit that got me was between the music, which plays in a very particular point of Final Fantasy IX in the situation, the imagery and everything. It made me pause, because I was like, this place feels sad, forgotten, lonely, crying out, and almost it's the desolation. You look up and you see all that sand falling down, the vibe, the colors, so dim.
Thanks for following,
the
Rihanna.
music. Thanks for following. And it's this sense of, I don't know exactly how to describe it. I mean, I know in which context, because I actually mentioned my suspicions regarding this dungeon, and it comes to don't real many things. But outside my interpretation and possibilities, that's the first feeling hit that slapped me in the face. The feeling of being forgotten and lonely and sad. I don't know if you guys
I definitely got that as well. Like, this is not the Everkeep we know.
Well, especially later on when Shale describes what they went through in order to preserve the castle. And
right.
She says, of course, it meant a lot to them that they preserved this and kept it in their memories.
Yeah. But I mean, if you look around, I'm looking at the floor now, but even just looking around, you see how unkept it is. That this is not a place that is maintained.
Yes. Perhaps in the beginning it meant a lot to them, but for most people, and if you go through the quests and the dialogues before going into the Underkeep, it's mentioned that not many people actually know that the castle is still beneath there.
Right.
So, perhaps in the beginning it meant a lot to them. They wanted to preserve the castle, but right now the castle is pretty much secret and has been forgotten by
I would say the maintenance would go as far as just keeping the electro machinery going.
Yeah.
But not as far as like keeping everything like cleaned off or dusted or anything like that. Just making sure the electrics work.
Yep, just the bare minimum. This giant fan actually reminds me of Final Fantasy VI a lot.
Like those Magitech facilities I've seen, like in this scenario.
No. If you've played Final Fantasy VI, you know, because there's a lot of sand down here.
Still have to.
It reminds me of Figaro Castle.
Oh,
yes. Yeah,
right.
Figaro Castle. Yeah.
I mean, there's sand in there too. Like my first thought when I saw the sand was the desolation, the intention to evoke a desert. Like there's something buried beneath the sand.
I was gonna say like all this.
It's like a barren heart.
Exactly. It's a desert here, and it evokes a very, very intense feeling of isolation, especially because if you look at the space, it's such a large space, and you're the only one here. And while you're running through here and there's monsters, you don't really notice it, but you're very, very small.
You are.
Yes.
The sense of scale gets even larger as you go through it. So yeah, you keep running, and then we'll talk more about it. Yeah.
The castle
here's the base.
So here, Cobb, stop here. And I do have to talk about 13.
Okay. There we go.
There's your first strike.
No, I have to. You played. If you guys are if any of you have played 13, perhaps.
I've never played 13. I don't know anything about
it. I meant for the chat. Like sometimes I'm going to have to go into stuff. If you intend to play in the trilogy, either mute me or whatever. This place, the container box, the sand, the vibe. It's. Do you remember in Line Returns, Yusnan, the dumpster?
Yeah.
That's exactly the. In fact, it's actually called the service route. That's the same thing that the industrial area in Yusnan, the high, how do you call it? The elevated platforms that you run to get to originally the infiltration point that later on is ruined because that, and after the infiltration is ruined, Lightning falls into the dumpster of all those things left to rot by the people of Yusnan. That is like this place.
Someone please clip me out saying Lightning fell into the dumpster.
Damn, like she should.
Nah. So the thing, it was immediately it was an immediate slap to me, seeing the sand and the containers and all that, especially because Dawntrail comes thematically from Shadowbringers. So, and in Shadowbringers we had Yulmore based on the concept of Yusnan, but not in the sign. However, in here we have Everkeep structurally the same structure of Yulmore, like, you know, the canopy, the city itself, it's like built almost like a tree, right? Same is Everkeep. So in here, in Yusnan in Yulmore we had the concept of Yusnan, not the design of the city itself. In Dawntrail we do have the design of Yusnan around Everkeep, not just in here. Living Memory, when it's all light up, it's the same design as Yusnan at night. So yeah.
I'd need a side-by-side to compare that.
Oh, don't worry, I will get you one.
All right.
But do you recall the statue in? Well, of course you recall that with the whole scene, right? Like that.
Yeah.
With the lights and the fireworks and the same statue.
You know what this does remind me of with the lights here is the big highway that goes all around Lightning Returns.
Right, but there's actually three. Four highways, but yeah.
I ran around the entire thing. They all connect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have run this dungeon so many times now. I didn't realize there was a staircase right here.
It is, but I prefer to jump. Don't worry.
Everybody jumps.
Yeah. So it's this. It should pop. It should pop in your screen any moment to call it like the service route.
Well, I don't have my screen.
Oh, okay. But well, if you pull up the map of the dungeon, it just will tell you.
Yeah, service route. There it is.
There you go.
Ta-da! So we start in the foundation framework, go into the service route, and the sediment trough.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like the sand was actually intentional.
It could be. It says that it's because it's the effort to evaporate, dry the water because it flooded the castle. But the
other thing is the water that flooded probably brought all the sediment with it, and since they were constantly fighting against the flooding, you get this kind of deserty looking sand remnant based on the water bringing all this sand in.
The thing, you know, is that, I mean, I'm getting a bit ahead of things, but considering that this is pretty much sand, and later on the story we see people turning into dust, what if
No.
I hate sand.
I don't buy that. So my question is this. Obviously, these pillars don't reach all the way up to the top. And it doesn't look like there's a proper ceiling to the dungeon. I haven't really taken a look at the model, so I don't know.
It's up there, but it's so far up there that you can't really determine whether it's the ceiling or not.
I would say it's capped off, but you can't really determine if that's a cap or what that is up there.
For the record, I wanted to clarify that my cursed thought about that. It's not that the entirety of the sand is people, but if they wanted to hide cases, just throw it with the sand, you know. It's like that was my idea, not that the whole desert was people.
Now I haven't played 9, but I will say that this does evoke memories of the sector plates from Final Fantasy VII, with the pillars holding them up.
Oh, right.
And you get that very old industrial look that 7 loved to.
Honestly, you need to play 7.
You haven't played 7? Play 7? I'm not a huge fan of 7, but it's worth playing for sure.
You really need to play 7.
So 7 and 6, Meow hasn't played.
I mean, I have an 8. I haven't played 8 either.
Okay, we got some work to do. Who in chat would watch Meowth play Final Fantasy 7, 6, and 8?
Me. You really, really need to play 7 and 6. I would definitely catch you playing 7.
And I bought Meowth Final Fantasy 6. You have it. There's no excuse.
We still have to find a time slot, and I've been swamped in so much work
I know.
after Dawn Trail. So I have to find a good slot for that. But yeah, I do have. I mean, I've watched playthroughs of the remake series so far, but as far as I understand, the remake series changed things, so maybe I'm missing stuff.
It changes a lot. Yes. You need to play the original.
All right.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to jump into this flowing sand river. And watch it just take me away. All right. So this is just a big funnel.
So one curiosity about this platform, Cobb. Don't leave the place yet. The platform. Go back to the platform.
I was trying to look underneath.
No. Up. Right. Look at the pattern in there.
Yeah, it's going madcap again.
Yeah.
Yes, but you just so if you can look at like from above.
Let's see. Actually, I'll just get out of first-person mode. There we go.
It's going to be a bit difficult. That was a nice view. Right, so I will say that I don't know if it's correct or not, but it reminds me a lot of the... There's two things it reminds me of. One is some aspects of the circles of the summoning spell of Asm, right? Even has the circle in the middle and that. The other thing it reminds me of, I don't know if that's true, is the eye pattern of the ancients. But I don't know, like there's many aspects, like the small whatever, but I'm not saying it is, I'm telling you what it reminds me of.
I don't know. There's 8 points on the outside.
But at least the Asm sigil does evoke it, especially when with the circle. At least that does evoke me.
There's 12 subdivisions on the inside of this. So on the inside, there's 12 sections. On the outside, between these big spikes, there's 8. Well, there's 8 spikes, so...
Yes, for reference, the eight spikes, circles, whatever, is very associated in, as far as I have been researching about the sigil and the sun symbol related to Asm, because not only is the number of a full party that is 8, right? But also, if you see the pattern of the sun, it's like two intertwined crosses, like 4 pointed crosses, like the one that's in the center and the one that's a bit tilted.
Right.
So in diagonal. So if you see, as in general, if you see the 8-ray pattern in 14 as a rule of thumb, whatever is it rays or is it circles as forming a sun, it's related to Asen, especially because, you know, the cross intersection is like 2 crosses intertwined make the 8 pointed.
It's an asterisk. It's an
asterisk.
So.
No, but it's important because sometimes you will see symbols that instead of 8, there's 6, and that's the trap. The 6 is the number of wings of a seraph. So.
So
that's why it's important.
This is the point that makes me think that the sand here is intentional, because they specifically have this funnel here that looks like it's a giant turbine for either sand or water. And the fact that the sand isn't piling up here means this is intentional. So.
More things about burying things. We have that theme in 6.2, and in Shadowbringers, just not in sand.
I like that they put the electrope animation on the inside of this broken column here, just going into a single point. Oh, I like that.
Right. I would point out about colors and how are they used, but take a note on the violet of the electrope here, like it's pumping. Because there's a lot of color symbolism going on here.
Right.
That's why I'm going to be rambling a lot.
Yeah, you are. You already have. You already mentioned 13 once.
What do you make of these symbols on the wall? Obviously electrope, but any purpose or just ornamentation?
I would say they don't have any significance as of right now yet. I'm sure going forward we can come back and speculate more, but right now they're just meant to just design.
They're again the double cross, technically, like purely composition. But wait.
Here comes Madcap.
Can you zoom into them?
Yeah.
Here comes tinfoil again.
So I'll tell you what it reminds me of is this.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought too. It's really just it's not supposed to really represent anything. Maybe just a harken back to the Gates of Razkazlar, yeah.
There's another thing that it's kind of reminding me of. Let me check in case my mind is.
But as for representing something, and no.
Okay.
Because if it was supposed to represent a gate, there would be only one, but there is many around the room.
I'm going to link you guys something in live chat, and you tell me what you think, okay? Because at first sight I was like, not something I would bet on that, but it was my first.
Interesting. What is it?
I'd say no.
That's the outline symbol, whatever, of an unused area in Final Fantasy 13-2, the 13th arc.
Number 2.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it up on screen just so people can see it.
I mean, I'm not betting on it, but
I'm sure you are. It was
a not used place, but it was related to the Phoenix. We know that because of the in the middle, but yeah, and it was relevant and associated with hope because the shape is nearly almost in the same exact shape of the rune that you use in 13, or Hope uses in 13 to summon Alexander, with the castle in here being, well, Alexandria. It's like, maybe, but I'm not going to bet on that. It reminded me of.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be a stretch, but it's an interesting comparison.
I think it's a stretch. That's just me, though.
I'm I'm not marrying that thing. It's just that it reminded me of, but can be not be. I don't.
You are known for Madcap. This is your first This is your like 5th or 6th Madcap of the episode.
I know my 13 stuff. At least even if it's Madcap, I can share.
I didn't say you didn't. Did I say you didn't?
No.
So okay. I just wanted to point out the random oil barrels over here. There's one red one, which means it's explosive.
Right.
You don't know that. It could just
it's
be
red.
A red barrel.
It's red. That means it explodes. I know this from other games. See, they're all here.
You can't apply just.
Boxes, crates. This hallways was so interesting because colors again. Mm-hmm. That red line is so interesting.
Yeah, because we don't see a lot of electrope that's red. There's not a lot of red. It's mostly purple, white, and black.
I don't know if it's electrope. My thought when I first ran this place was very much like, this is very much Asian colors. But and if you see here, this hallway goes from violet.
I honestly think it's more of like a power cable.
Yeah, but it's an interesting choice of color, though. And now you go from the violet lights into this camera, into this chamber with the. I was going to say camera. Fuck my life. You go from the violet lights into where the place the castle is, and the lights go from violet to amber color, which is the color associated with. Mm-hmm. Well, you know.
Yep, that's more. Yeah, amber is Ronka.
I was going to say it's Assassin, but okay.
Yeah, I knew where she's going with that.
Or that orange. But yeah, I'm not saying this is associated with Ronka in any way. I just think it's interesting. I hadn't noticed that actually, that the lights do change color.
Lightning energies usually are, yes.
If you go near the rails, you will see that there's barbed wiring around this whole place. So
question then, since they said that this was a constant struggle against rising waters, do you think it's that amber color because it's primed with earth ether instead of lightning? So they consolidated all of the earth ether in here to keep the water out.
I think it's more symbolic, but it could be also it could be a reason for that as well. So I'm not going to be like, no, it's only no. They could be like, oh, but we use earth color, but earth color like earth elemental. I mean, which color is it? So.
Yeah, lightning energy is usually purple and 14.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go ahead and say that it isn't special. It isn't some kind of like, isn't meant to evoke something. You go ahead. Yeah, thanks. It isn't meant to. It isn't meant to represent anything. It's just kind of a different color to utilize throughout the area instead of making everything purple. I would say more or less it's yellow lights up better than purple does.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be that person, Ayumi, but like a bit of insider knowledge. You don't choose things just because in video games or any visual.
This is where you and I disagree, and
it's all right. By the way,
you see things in tinfoil eyes. I see things in realistic eyes.
That's all right. That's no problem. But Cobb, if you can go to the shot of the castle, like a bit like far away, like the first shot we get from the castle
Right
and
there.
the ray of light.
It reminds me a lot of what's it called? Upside Down Castle.
Anti-Tower.
Ibsen.
There we go.
Oh, Anti-Tower or Ibsen Castle.
Yeah.
Like Ibsen Castle in 9 is the
Anti-Tower.
Okay.
From a distance, it looks like Anti-Tower.
Anti-Tower is not the most comforting comparison to draw in this whole thing, by the way.
From a distance, it looks like it, until you, of course, pan down and it's just ruins.
Yeah.
But...
I mean, it could be Ibsen Castle, to be honest, but I wouldn't be surprised if, like, there's something about it, because there's, like...
I think it's just the lighting, where the lighting is, because Anti-Tower had that one facet of lighting on one side and then shadow on the other.
Yeah, they're doing the same effect here.
However, one thing, from where the fuck does the light come from?
I was just about to ask where that light is coming from, because there should not be a hole.
But in symbolism, there's two ways you can interpret a single ray of light like this. Because if you look at the composition, like this chamber, it's actually very much designed like this sort of prison cells, in which the prison cells they're all in this sort of amphitheater structure. Have you played Persona 5?
Yeah.
I don't know. Right. Well, do you remember the final dungeon when there's like the heading to the final boss, and there's like these prison cells in the concentric circles?
Yep.
It's actually based in one form of prison, meant to drive the interns pretty much crazy in their loneliness, because they can't see what's happening around them. They only see the just in front. It's the feeling of isolation.
Right.
It's very much structured in the same way. But here you see the ray of light, and there's two ways you can interpret this. One is the heavenly aspect of seen by the heavens, which is not exactly comforting regarding themes we're dealing with, like something that's descending from the heavens. But there's also the positive way, that it means that this place, there's still something that connects you with not entirely being forgotten.
So
because there's light still reaching.
I want to touch on the second one, because I don't believe, well, I do believe there is a kind of symbolism here, but also when we're here, we learn how much the people loved the castle while they were building Everkeep. And this actually reminds me of a monument. And so I would not be surprised if this light was actually artificially generated to actually specifically illuminate the castle. It's just we can't see the lights because we're so far down.
But it's like, even if there is a reason, that shot has symbolic meaning. So
yeah.
But again, symbolism is something that it can be abstract. It can mean many things. That's why I don't really not going to be around like preaching and be like, believe me or not, because it's difficult. It's difficult for. I mean, I study symbolism, and it can be difficult for me to read something, because in the end, the ones who actually know what they meant with the composition, that's CBU3, and they're not going to tell us.
So we notice around the perimeter of the castle there is a flood barrier, which I thought was really interesting. The other thing I think is really interesting is that these elevator systems, we only see these kinds of elevator systems one other place in the game, and that's the Praetorium.
Yes, they are.
Right.
Which we've seen a lot of crappy elevators in the game, but this specific angled elevator with the platform that stays straight, that's where we fight Gaius in the Praetorium for the first time.
Right.
How very glib of them.
Yeah.
Whee!
Boonk.
With the sparks, I wonder how by the end of this slide the walls, boots, shoes, whatever are not broken, the souls and stuff.
So we go into the shadowy part of the castle.
Mm-hmm.
To fight the Shadow Lord.
Yeah, it quite literally, AC. The road that we walk is lost in the flood.
The road that we walk is lost to flood. Here, proud angels bathe in their wages of blood, which is a direct reference to Ultima, by the way.
Oh yeah, the Angel of Blood.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I'm not saying it's Ultima.
Yeah, not saying it's Ultima, but
Ayumi, it's Angel of Blood. Fuck's sake.
I know. Why do you think?
Do we want to talk about this room? The beautiful coffered ceilings, the candelabras with illuminated electrope.
Like,
it makes for a good ballroom.
There's one thing I would say about because these white ones are not so predominant. Well, white. It's not white. It's actually more like bit violet, bit yellow. But then there's those who are actually more violet.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to me. I'm not going to go into why, but that all of them are 3. Like you see 3 things in the chandeliers and lamps. 3. Number 3 is number 3. When it comes to that color, that's important.
Yep, the trio.
No, it's so right. Okay, I'm going to say it. The seat of Metzalk is the 3rd seat, so number 3 is heavily associated with him, and violet is the color of the crystal. So when you see that color and you see 3,
what about the ceiling lights that have 4?
That's 4, yeah. But it's like that one is on the ceiling, but there's another theme. There's another interesting theme with 4, because when we went to, like in 7.0, we went to the mask room in the recreation of the Milala, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were 4 masks. 3 of them seem to represent the Unsanded, and there's the 4th mysterious one.
Yeah.
So 4 is also an interesting number regarding that. Also, by the way, I've been revisiting things, and the fact that pretty much we could perhaps venture that that room is like the 3 Unsanded, and then likely the mysterious mask of Azon, and that's number 4. It's a number that for the Japanese it means death, by the way, because of I think it's because of pronunciation or something. But it's also the classical number.
You know why it represents death?
I think it's because it sounds similar to the word death or something.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So.
Not the same kanji, but yes, it sounds. All it does is it sounds similar. It doesn't share the same kanji, though.
That's also why they have another word for 4, which is yong.
Yes.
Right. So, I was going to say it's that number that means death, but at the same time symbolizes death. But also, it's also the classical number for in the party for Warriors of Light, like in the original and many more. Number 4 is like the number of the original Warriors of Light. So it's interesting to, even if it doesn't mean anything, but it's something so interesting to bear in mind that we're dealing with numbers. We're dealing with many things with numbers, actually. That there though does remind me of the crest of the Dominion of Rubrum. That one, it does.
See, I see the wings of Alexandria, and I just really like the overlay of the really hyper technological on top of the Baroque. Which this is too thick and too, I guess, bulky to be Rococo. So it's a very Baroque style.
Baroque, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Baroque.
But I love just the contrast between the ancient and the new right here. I think it's so cool.
Yeah. it's a bit striking, but it works somehow.
Yeah, none
But
of the old.
it
Yeah,
reminds.
exactly.
I
I
mean,
see.
having that. This is going to be, but having that this renderization of Alexandria Castle and this style and that it reminds. Of course, it's not. It doesn't really have to mean anything. But many years ago, I visited the Royal Palace in Madrid, in the capital of Spain. It was a history of art. It was for high school or your equivalent of high school or something. So we got in there. It's more or less Baroque in style, and all these things reminds me so much of things I've seen there. Like I've seen bathrooms in that place that look like this, and it's like, and and it's quite impressive. But the royal family doesn't live there. They live in a much smaller big house. Like the royal palace, it would be crazy to live in there. It's massive though.
So, do you think this is the flag of Alexandria hanging up here?
It could be. I mean, I think it's the original flag of Alexandria.
Yeah.
Then,
Yeah, because we see it on the shield as well.
Yeah, but then again, it's making me think, because actually we're dealing with kind of neo-Alexandria, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then after this whole thing, it's safe to assume that preservation or whatever is going on changed the flag of Alexandria, because that's one way to erase identity of a country.
Or it evolved over time. Yeah, it's possible.
It can be, but I'm in so many aspects. I'm very much reminded of the French Revolution, in which the flag of France was specifically changed to erase any trace and memory that France had been once a monarchy. I'm seeing. I've been actually researching the French Revolution lately because I'm seeing themes that seem to be leading about it to next expansion.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my. If I were to tell you the many things I've been researching.
So, what do you make of the carpet here?
Eyes.
Eyes?
I think it's just a design.
Okay. And then we get to the pictures.
Nah, I didn't see. I don't really see the eyes. It's just that the almond shape, more or less.
I think, more or less, it's just meant to evoke, or what they're trying to do. What they were trying to do is make that subtle reference to the castle in Final Fantasy IX. So they tried to make it as subtle as possible while also incorporating their own
It could be simple retexturing of the old castle in 9, which actually was in PS1. It was really the scenarios were so beautiful.
Right. That's what I mean, because it'd be kind of like retexturing the castle, but also like adding like their own little flair to the designs. Because that's primarily what they wanted to evoke here, especially at the end with who we meet.
So I don't think these are specifically from 9, at least not the two on the left, because you see Electro wiring on the walls.
Well, obviously, Electro wasn't in 9, but I'm saying the castle itself, the design itself.
Yeah. Of course. Now, these two I could believe were from 9. And especially this kind of really smudged, blurred one.
Listen, it was time crunch.
Yeah, right. And we have it again here. These two same pictures appear twice. Yeah, so then they're just repeating at this point in different sizes. in this room. The big balcony. From what I understand, this hallway was very iconic in 9.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Just because you ran up and down it so much.
Yes. Yes. It's been a minute since
Ask
I
a
played
Final
Snow.
Fantasy
You also
VII
noticed
fan
that
about,
one of the electric lights is burned out here. Which
Yes.
means they do expire.
Really? Oh, right.
Which means they do need to be changed.
Interesting. I will have to muse on that. Because that's a choice.
That is a choice. All I wanted in this hallway was for the suits of armor to come to life and attack.
The statues too.
Yeah, I wanted that so bad.
Mood.
Oh, I know it's the 14 castle in the picture. I'm saying the castle itself, this castle we're walking around, it's inspired by the 9 castle.
So at the top there, we have what I assume to be the crest of Alexandria that we've been seeing through the entire castle at this point. On the flag, on the shields, you have 6 swords and a shield. So
let's not forget the heart.
If you see at the end, it's in the decoration above the gate. It's a mix between a sun bit and a heart, which you could understand it as beyond these gates lies something heart. It's your Kingdom Hearts stuff out here.
Get out.
Where's Sora and his key?
It's interesting anyways that this place where the Guardian is before the heart is called the Chamber of Patience, which I was like, and you know, the other day that I was mentioning something about this pet theory of mine about each Final Fantasy title being themed after one of the major arcanas in Tarot. You know, each card representing that. Well, running around Solution 9, I think it was Ellie that found that there's a dialogue. I think it's in the fortune teller that's across the street of Neon Stain, the back room, and there's this line that's like something that you need temperance. And when Ellie told me, I was like, what? Because temperance is the 14th arcana, which is the one that actually would represent 14. And it was like, are you fucking kidding me? And the card of temperance, basically, it means many things, okay? But one of the traits of it is patience, that in time, everything falls into proper place. But you have to give it time. It's like this trust and belief on cosmic law, if it makes sense, and the natural flow of nature. So
yes.
So the name of this place, it was like, well, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm still getting over the natural flow of nature.
What? Sorry, that was very that was very redundant.
That was nice.
So AC Gears says,
I can see Ayumi clipping that.
AC Gears says, I'm curious, do you think
nature.
the 9th reflection had its own heroes, or was that history lost to time post the storm surge?
I mean,
I'm pretty certain it was
is,
established that every reflection had its heroes.
I suppose it had. The problem is that, conceptually speaking, it's not a comforting thought, to be honest. Like, sure, there's many souls and memories in Solution 9. They say that they are from renowned warriors and heroes and champions and whatever. It doesn't sit well to me. It hasn't been sitting well with me ever since Shadowbringers. Because the nature of heroes, and we're saying that in the Arcadian, and even before in Shadowbringers, the nature of heroes is to be martyrs, is to be this figure that solves everyone's problems and makes everyone useless because they dump their problems on heroes to solve them for them. So that what you're doing is turning people unable to solve their own problems. So aside from that, you make people weak. You don't teach the people to solve and find solutions themselves. And aside from that, they do and fight and fight for in the name of causes, and everyone fight someone else's fights. They are warriors in service of something. They're weapons, and then like any tool, they like we see in Arcadian, they are supposed to retire. The truth is, at least so far, is that
you
they're
retire into a
actually
ditch.
Disposed. People remember them as this high. It's almost like they go to heaven in a sort of Valhalla, this special place in Solution 9 where everything is fun. But they're like isolated, no one can go check. It's like this special place, like even like the Elysium in myth. But the truth is that they're actually dumped down. It's just so the thing about psychonecrosis doesn't spread. So it's like the thing about heroes to me is like the ultimate expression of a tool in which you dispose of them when they become too powerful or too close to the truth. That's my venture there. So any mention to heroes after Shadowbringers has been bugging me so much.
So you would categorize a hero as a powerful, useless, or useful idiot.
What? Sorry, I
You would categorize a hero as a powerful, useful idiot.
Like Snow.
Nice.
Not literally an idiot like Snow, but like someone who's easily manipulated into doing what you want them to do.
Yes.
Okay. So
AC, that line is so important because, like so many things, people really misunderstand the intention of his words. But what Hades says in there is a world that doesn't have heroes, and this is something that comes up in the tank role quest for Dawntrail. A world that doesn't need heroes is a world in peace because there's no reason for others to be saving other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes up in this expansion quest line.
So I would refute that we never hear about any heroes of Alexandria because one, we have Otis, who is absolutely a hero.
Selenia.
And yeah. And the Beatrice amalgam, which is Zelenia. Both of them I would absolutely consider to be heroes. 100%. Now, were they fighting for the right thing? We don't know. That's something I think that we might uncover, but for now has kind of been lost to time. Did Lindblom have heroes? Did other nations on the Ninth Shard have heroes? We don't know.
Well,
but I would be shocked if they didn't.
You still have to talk about the whole thing about the shard before going.
That is next. That is next, and we were going to have a long, drawn-out fight about that. So.
Not fight, it's just...
discussion.
No, it's going to be a fight.
Why are you so confrontational?
Because I'm ready to fight.
Because
you are the most madcap about everything.
I may be madcap, but I may be all madcap you want, but at least when I'm madcap, I elaborate why I am madcap, so I can give you the whole explanation.
And it's still madcap. You elaborate, and it's still madcap.
So I will say this is the only place I've seen stained glass in the entire castle, and it's covered in flowers. Mm-hmm. Now it's not roses, so I don't know if it means Zelenia, but I don't know if flowers were a thing in 9.
No, and
no.
I will tell you something. Oh, fuck, I will have to talk about this. Put a pin on flower and thorn imagery. It's a very deliberate iconography.
There you go.
But these are specifically blue flowers, not necessarily roses.
No, these are white. These are white, I think. Are they white?
They're like a sky blue. That's how I see them. Like a very light blue. Because white would be the concrete around it. AC says, I'd argue Beatrice was never a hero in 9, a great character, but not a hero, as I put it, like Leon in 2. Thoughts?
She's a war hero, to be more precise.
I guess a hero really matters on your perspective.
Yes.
If you're fighting against the hero, then they're not a hero to you.
I mean, the Warrior of Light is the best example in here. Like, for the Orsians and we are heroes, but ask the Garleans about us.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, the Garleans had heroes as well. They had Hydrus, they had Gaius.
Gaius.
All of which we killed. Except for Gaius. We didn't kill Gaius.
Well, not Gaius.
We killed the Black Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sephiroth was also a hero before he lost his goddamn mind. Yeah, Sephiroth inspired Cloud to be a lunatic.
Sephiroth. So, I will point out one thing is that white flowers tend to represent innocence in a certain way. But I will be honest with you guys. I'm kind of dreading the part in the trial that I've got to explain later. Because you're going to laugh at me, but...
Oh, good.
But, as you... oh, good, as if you don't laugh at me on a daily basis.
Sure do.
That's true.
But, there's a sequence in that trial that you guys... Well, the sequence, the final... like, the ultimate attack Selenia does, right?
Right.
For you guys, it looks cool, and it does look cool. Right, it's the motive of the Rose of May and all that with Beatrix and all that. To me, and anyone who has studied symbolism and visual rhetoric, that sequence is the equivalent of an explicit sequence. So I'm
not sure where you're going with that.
How the fuck do I explain that? It's like, if I have to, I will try to be as elegant as possible, but...
No, don't be elegant. Just say what you mean.
If you prefer to go first to discuss the things that lead up to the trial, and then I can tell you, because that will give me more time.
Yeah, because we've got a ways to the trial.
How am I supposed to?
All right. So after the dungeon, we're all walking down the hallway. Sven's talking about her past in the castle and how she, her lightning affliction was progressive. It didn't initially leave her unable to get out of bed, but eventually it left her that way. So she liked to watch Otis and Zelenia train. Here we have a shot of blank hallways in the castle that are just corners. I'm convinced they're just walking in a square. And how she loved to see them spar.
This whole sequence is more or less like to give us context to the fight of Selenia, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, narratively speaking, it serves that purpose.
And Sven said the storm surge broke out when she was 15, and both her mother and father died in it, which means the people who started it were killed by it. Because remember, Alexandria was the aggressor in the storm surge. They started the war. Never really liked the idea of Roses of May being the theme of Beatrice. Good song, just that she was born in April, not May. And this castle is too big. I agree.
I will say one thing though. Final Fantasy 14. Even I've heard so many times.
Oh, what'd you do?
I've heard so many times the whole argument that 14 is its own story. True, it is its own story. But because it is meant to be a quote-unquote theme park of Final Fantasy as a whole, it does reward those who know the lore about the saga. So just the thing that we went, from AI Sphere in 7.0, having Alexandria a whole, AI Sphere, which we don't know to what extent he may have been influenced by Calix, right? Since he was the one who produced the whole, we go from that first version that she gives us, that Alexandria was the victim, and now we go into meeting the real Sphere and telling us that you say that Alexandria was the aggressor, and then and I would say that the whole thing is Alexandria, because if I don't want to go into 9 spoilers, but it was Alexandria who in 9 nuked the rest of the nations.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so I with the whole themes on Dawntrail and all this, I think it's meant to make any 9 veteran raise their eyebrows, like, wait a moment, I know my 9 story. This is not how it went and I know that people could argue, but this is 14 and all that. Yeah, but you don't use these references that are actually so iconic, and then start revealing. At this point, you could argue, okay, it's just mentioning that that Alexandria started the whole thing, but what's the next step? Revealing that Alexandria did the whole thing, because that's the progression I'm seeing. It started with we are the victims to we started the thing, if it makes sense.
Yeah.
But and lore in 9 tells us that it was Alexandria who nuked the rest of the nations, and actually all 3 of the rest of the nations of the continent of the mist. So.
Yeah, AC says, I find it amusing Otis is captain and Zelenia is second in command. Otis is competent, unlike Steiner, who only became competent knight after his adventure.
Yes.
So yeah, when Sphene became queen, she wasn't allowed to fight, obviously, because of her illness, and there was no successor in line.
There's a fucking mosquito running. If you hear me, like, sitting up out of a sudden, is because I'm trying to kill a mosquito.
No, it's fine. And she could barely move in the end, but she always regretted not being able to go out and fight. And then she's talking about AI Sphene being sad about not being able to protect the realm with benevolence and instead having to turn to violence. And yeah, this castle is ridiculously huge. The hallways are insanely wide. Like, I've been to Versailles. They're not this wide. It's like maybe a quarter of this width. Like, it's actually a reasonable width.
It reminds me of the scale. I've been recently taking references for my next work. It reminds me of the scale of Amarot a bit. Kind
of, yeah. Okay, maybe not a quarter, maybe a third. But yeah, this is a ridiculously wide hallway. And then suddenly, Wuklamat's by herself.
Yeah.
Here we have AI Sphene and the Twink. Aeneas' favorite new character. Calix. Yep. So you did this.
And apparently, teleporting Sphene was an accident. But anyways,
it was proximity. Now, what makes me really happy is that we have apparently used our pocket space to shove the key into our bag, without it taking up an inventory slot, which I'm very happy about. But I'm really glad we didn't just leave it on the table back in the inn room, because that infuriated me at the end of Endwalker.
Wait. At the end of Endwalker?
Or sorry, not at the end of Dawntrail.
End of Dawn Trail.
So, I will. So, I will say it could, because my first reaction when she said this, I was like, wait a moment, do we have that thing with us? Like, we haven't been shown to have that thing with us at any moment after the ending. So I was like, well, since when do we have that thing in with us?
I thought the same thing, but the trap wouldn't have triggered if we didn't have it. So,
shh, give me a moment. And then let me speak. I know that I speak a lot, but but then I asked. It's in the. I mean, you can go watch it. It's like uploaded in our YouTube channel. But then I was like, wait. Do we? I was like, first, we have that thing with us, and then second, if we don't have it, what else could have triggered this? And Ellie was laughing at me because she had played the patch before me, and she was waiting for me to see. And it's later in this scene when Calix looks at Asam's crystal and he's like, there it is. And to me, I mean, I don't know exactly true. What it is. So it could either be the Grail, and we have it with us, or it can be Asam's crystal. What triggered it? And if it was Asam's crystal what triggered it, the implications.
Just go to the next slide. You'll see. Next couple slides, Calix said it.
Selenia.
Also, this whole thing about assessing the walls.
Oh no, it was Queen's Fiend. She said that we set something up that
that's way back.
Reacted.
That reacted to the key. But what key are they talking?
Yeah.
What key are they talking about? That's the problem. Are we talking about one key? Are they talking about the key to the key? It's like how many keys are in?
They're talking about the Grail.
I think it's just the Grail.
I agree.
Because
they don't care about anything else.
She is no. What they knew, all they knew, their knowledge was wrapped around the Grail itself. That's what they knew. That's what they have the knowledge of. So had they initially set up that trap to react to the Grail itself.
Sure, though? Are you sure though? Because Calix recognized
Meow,
what we
stop madcapping for a second.
No.
If you have knowledge of something and you want it back, and you know what it looks like, you know what it sounds like, you know what it tastes like, someone took it, but you want it back, you're gonna set a trap based on what you know about it. Not based on, well, that guy has something else, but it kind of looks like it, it kind of acts like it, but I want what I want back.
Then why do we have the focus on Calix noticing and recognizing Asam's crystal?
Because he recognized the symbol.
That's it. But Asam's crystal is not going to help them achieve their goal.
No.
They want the Grail.
He recognized that the symbol is. He recognized that it activated, and that he recognized that this is either another one of the same thing, or there's the symbol. There's what we're after. There's
how
what
would
we're
they know
seeking.
the symbol?
Well, they saw it in the simulation fight.
Yeah.
What?
Calix was watching.
So as soon as we use the crystal for Zelenia, they're going to see that same symbol.
Right. But his reaction is to the crystal.
And he also watched our fight with the simulant initially, Queen's Fiend.
Right. Which is Asam's crystal is what makes the Grail react with Asam's sigil.
So he took note of that, and he also...
The thing is, they don't need Asam's crystal to use the Grail.
Right.
They didn't to get to the source.
But to unlock the secrets of the Orsite inside, we know that they couldn't. So what they used was the electrode casing to force the Orsite to work.
Right.
But it's stated that they couldn't delve deeper into its secrets. What they're using is basically something that forces through some portion of the power of the aura side. That's what the electromagnetism is.
As far as
However,
we know,
that thing reacts.
Yeah, you're trying to force something.
Yeah,
I'm
not buying that.
No, you're trying to madcap canon.
I'm not trying to force anything.
No, like you're trying. You're arguing that they're after Azim's crystal, but they're not. They're after the Grail.
That's right.
I'm not after the. I'm not saying that they're not after the Grail, but to unlock the whole potential of the Grail, they would need Azim's crystal. That's the point I wanted to say. Whether I believe that there's.
You say that now, but you weren't saying that earlier.
No. No, I'm saying in this case, Calix was definitely interested in Azim's crystal. So
I think he was more interested in testing our capability.
That too, which by the way reminds me so much of.
He admitted that too. He admitted that out loud.
He did. Yeah.
Reminds me so much of two people. One Athena, the second Omega. Both think attempt to the same thing.
He's putting us through our 5th or 6th tournament arc.
My word, this data.
This data. It's all those over again.
Yeah.
But regardless,
the soul rebels.
Whatever the case is that they definitely, from a composition standpoint, they definitely focused on Calix recognizing Azim's crystal. So that thing has their interest. To what degree?
Our emblem is etched into the crystal itself.
For whatever reason it is.
For whatever reason.
That's an underlining. The reasons for why I have my opinion, you guys have another. That's all right. That's no problem. The important part is that there's a focus on, hey, these guys know about this thing. That's important.
I have no doubt that they know about the crystal. I just don't think they're after that.
No.
Yeah.
Their knowledge extends as far as what the Grail is and how they want to achieve their goals. Mm-hmm. The crystal itself is secondary to what they can achieve.
Yeah, they want dimensional fusion. They want the Grail. That's what they're referring to as the key. So, anyway, we'll go into the fight with Zelenia.
I've got my opinions, but that's not the place to go for opinions.
So here we go. The better you fight, the more accurate my
data. This is more accurate your data, which is pretty much what Omega says to us. Yeah. Even, better you fight, the more accurate I can get an analysis of you.
And this is where Real Sphene stole my heart. To reclaim the key to which you so stubbornly cling, which again, the Grail. And this was just dickish on Simulant's part. Let's see.
These villains, by the way, we are in Shadowbringers.
We are villains. We are villains to preservation. Because from preservation's perspective, they're trying to save the citizens of Alexandria from death by giving them their version of eternal life.
Yes, but give me a moment. Dawntrail came straight from the threats of Shadowbringers, and not just coming from the threats of Shadowbringers, it's also evoking Shadowbringers, as in, if we were going back to Shadowbringers, but the same going forward. It's a complicated thing to explain. But anyways, the use of villains here had me raising my eyebrows, because that's exactly what the Ulmorans kept.
Of course, no one's gonna say go kill the heroes.
No, but
in
this case it's using Zelenia, who is a righteous, proper knight, controlled to kill the let's say the good guys by convincing that we are the bad guys, which is interesting.
But to them,
know.
we are
Anyways,
the bad guys.
So,
And question, did you guys expect Zelenia to be a red knight? I expected Zelenia to be like Beatrice, which is a holy spell sword.
She works like a red mage spell blade in the trial.
Yes.
With a bit of Dark Knight because of the big ass sword.
Right. And then... yeah, here. Where Sphene just kind of loses it.
Yeah.
That endeared me to her so much. Seeing her get angry. Some other emotion other than that smiley, annoying, always happy, always cheerful, bubbly self.
That's the which says a lot about the simulant and how it was a bastardization of the real
to me,
Sphene.
this humanized actual Sphene. This turned her into an actual character for me, and that's when I really started liking her. Calyx being a
when
dick.
It comes to reference, okay, I'm not going to go into. Well, I will have to go into reference. I'm suffering.
Destroy the monstrosity. And if she was indeed created from my memories, even if I can't fight, I may be able to offer you counsel. So this is, to me, an indirect form of guilt. So because the simulant was created on her memories, and the simulant's memories of Zelenia created the artificial Zelenia, that kind of struck me as, she feels guilty because she gave rise to this indirectly, even though it wasn't her fault.
And she's basically asking us to kill Zelenia for her, to free her and restore her honor, which is so it's so important because it sets a theme. It sets a really crucial theme. Because right now, the whole thing about preservation is achieving eternal life, and right now they're framing it as the eternal life part. We still have been focusing on the eternal life part, right?
Yeah.
But Alex has already underlined in his introducing monologue that one big problem to this is death, which, if you want to achieve eternal life,
that's generally a problem when you're trying to get immortality.
You want to erase the concept of death. But with all the things we've been going into 7.0 into 7.2, there's a lot of mind control and mind fuckery and hijacking things and taking over stuff, right? In this moment, because right now Zelenia is actually mind-jacked or controlled by Calyx, right? This is setting the theme that death is liberation and honor, but liberation. This is the liberation and freedom is a theme for Stormblood. You're going to leave it in there.
I think that I want to make a video on the impact of Alexandria's soul system on the live stream, because we know how the live stream functions and just how Alexandria not allowing souls to return would impact that. I think it would be really interesting, and just deep diving into that.
You don't want me to get into that because I'm. But
or do
way,
I?
Zelenia, your choice. Her name, by the way, Zelenia. It's a Slavic name that means green in the sense of plants. Okay, it's also kind of, you can also take a Greek root from Selene, moon, but technically it's a Slavic name. It's associated with plants and green and plant life, nature in that aspect. Triantaphili is Greek for rose, I think.
So AC says, would Sphene's outfit be out of place in real life? It looks modern enough. I think it would pass as street fashion.
I think so too.
Yep. There it is. So the crystal, that's what he's talking about here. But I don't think it's because he wants the crystal. He just wants to see our power.
Yes.
Well, that's something we will see in the future. So it's something that,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're here to speculate. Then we'll see what happens.
And then we win.
You miss. Okay, I'm not.
What?
Of course, missed. It was about the sequence during this trial. But...
I'm not gonna relitigate the entire fight.
Yeah. The fight happened and then it ended.
If you want to do that, Meowth, you have a channel. You can put it on your own channel.
We can also do just an episode devoted to that if we wanted to.
Do you really want to devote an episode?
Nope.
I don't know about
nope.
on what I can only describe as visual rhetoric porn, because that's
Oh, that's a clip. That's a clip.
Meowth is dirty today. Here's my question. Why the hell does Calyx have a compass? Why does he need a compass? He has a laser pen.
What?
He has a compass in his pocket.
Why yeah. Oh,
why
yes,
does he need a
yes.
compass?
He has one of those. Yes.
I'm going to tell you something regarding a compass.
Like, the guy hasn't seen a
because
sheet of paper in 400 years, probably.
Do you know about the thing about the compass? Because we see that in courses in preservation's seal that we see around Solution 9 stuff. There's certain shaping that I've been trying to compare with other symbols, and one of them is masonry. A compass is really crucial in masonry. So, but there's for clarification, there are many people who would say would claim themselves to be Masons and actually have no idea about what Masonry is, and conspiracies and sects and stuff, and people who misinterpret entirely what it is. But this misinterpretation, it may be actually a plot point of, hey, we think we're doing this and become this, and you're actually doing the opposite thing because you have no idea of what the thing is about, if it makes sense. But the compass is a really, really loaded symbol by them, just so you know. Also, related to Masonry, since we speak in keys.
Yeah, smart,
Speaking of compasses, since we're speaking Masonry, the whole point about Masonry, symbolically speaking, allegorically speaking, is the concept, because the Masons were the guild of Masons were the ones who were in charge of building cathedrals and stuff, right? And it was a trade secret, and in many aspects. Fucking are you me? So,
I wasn't kidding.
The most important thing in a cathedral in medieval age and building cathedrals, well, medieval age, but even before that, was the concept of how to build a vault, because that's really, really difficult to build without, and they actually did that without how do you call it, concrete to paste together the stones. It's all based on physics, and the most important part of Masonry, which later on in their order would take a different meaning, is the clef. In French they would call it, and basically it's the keystone of the vault, because that one stone that holds the whole vault together. You take it away
keystone,
and everything crumbles apart.
Right.
So when all these things is talking about the key, which it's technically India Grail is the oversight, and if it turns out to be that Assam's crystal is another key, then it's also a stone. So this whole thing is really loaded when it comes to symbolism and allegories and stuff. Just, I know that I tend to ramble, but it thematically is important.
And to.
So I would would argue against saying that it's a reference to the architect from the Matrix, but I would agree that they're trying to put him as an architect of Alexandrian.
You know who he reminds me of when he was spinning that pen?
Who?
Boris from GoldenEye.
I was just about to say that because that is the only other person I can think of who did the pen spin with the clicky clicky.
Yes.
Yeah. And then he exploded.
I have to watch The Matrix, to be honest, because there's a lot of things from The Matrix here at play. Though Calix, I don't think it's the...
He didn't explode. He got hit with a tube of nitrogen.
So
Calix being the architect of Alexandria, yes, but in the big scope of things, Calix is definitely a puppet. He's an endless, or something that at least maybe he may be even a bit more elevated than an endless. But
the architect of modern Alexandria, but I would say, well, yes, a puppet. I would say a puppet that was kind of left to do things on their own. So they were being guided at one time, and then the guidance went away, and they just kind of kept going with it. And I don't know what the tube on his neck is. What do you guys think? Because I thought initially, yes, that's something from his illness when he was alive, but as an endless, unless he considered that part of his identity and wanted it, it wouldn't be there.
Honestly, and this is me sort of dancing into Madcap. I think
embrace it.
What? No, I think what we're seeing is a simulation of him.
Well, yeah.
I think what we're seeing is a projection of him.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not going to put himself there.
Right.
He's not an idiot.
No, of course.
But yeah. I think that what that wire could mean. Oh, I haven't really thought about it all that much. Just because there's not too much to speculate about it.
About Calix, to me, there are two crucial things here. One to me is, from the explanation we were given in 7.0, is that apparently the Endless take on the happiest memories of their life. And Calix is said to have been ill all his life. Maybe it's something that he doesn't know how to, or he didn't know how to live without, and it has gone into his whole perception of himself. He can't imagine himself without that thing.
So I wear a pacemaker, right? And there's a wire going beneath my skin to alongside my throat to the back of my head. I want to say that that's kind of similar, or it's like on the outside of him going to the inside, and that's what the patch covers, and that he wears something above, like his heart or something, like a monitor or something. That's just something I want to float around, that he's just wearing something that can monitor maybe his vitals, or he's monitoring something about himself. I mean, because that wire obviously it's wrapped around, and that's a bandage. That has to be a bandage. Yeah. It has to be a bandage. Yes. And it's going, and it's wrapped around, and it's going into him, like an IV would go into an arm.
Yeah. It's going into his jugular, or carotid artery, sorry.
The sign wise it's someone who's wired, which it's a way to indicate influence. We saw that in like Uweyawata field station with all the people
and
inside the pods.
It also has that little clip in the middle there that you would unscrew and screw in a new IV.
Right. Another thing that's interesting of Calix to me is his color scheme. He is not just gray, he's decolored in eyes and hair. You can tell that his hair was once a certain color, but it's faded into this sort of colorless thing. And that, coupled with his monotone, tells me that this is someone who has been losing humanity in regards of feelings. And that's another kind of worms, but...
All right. And our data complicates things, as we knew it would. Meanwhile, Sphene is still, like, over here smiling, super happy. It's like, okay, whatever, don't care.
Is that everything? Okay.
Then
my role is finished.
Are we done?
You know something that do you know something that Ellie pointed out regarding these two after the trial in my first run, that they were so similar to the dynamic between Xenos and Fandaniel, but with their personalities reversed.
Yeah, I would
the
say
one
so.
in the throne,
But
the one in the
is
throne being Fandaniel, and the one in the planning being the personality like Xenos.
See, yes,
And
but
again, this would.
she's got the calm of Xenos, but not the bloodlust of Xenos. She's very political, whereas Xenos was very physically violent.
No, but I mean, but in terms of vibe-wise, not just a complete copy of them, but vibe-wise and dynamic-wise, they're very similar, which would bring us back to Endwalker themes, or Stormblood. Endwalker, I mean, Endwalker comes from Stormblood, so it's kind of...
So Sphene and Sphene talking. So this reminded me a lot of Emmett Selk talking to us in Amarot, where you're not fit to be stewards of this or any star. But this time coming from us to them.
As I said, role reversals. We're now in the...
Now, this is interesting.
It's in there.
Yeah, this is interesting when Calyx said, I don't want to use my research for this. This is a waste of time. Like, just give me what I want so we can do what we're actually trying to do.
Yeah.
But he has to resort to every method necessary because we are intent on keeping it to ourselves.
Yep. And we will. Like Charlene. We learn from the best. And here we go. Since I relinquished my flesh long ago, I must resort to every conceivable method, so long as the hero insists on keeping the key. I read this as sarcasm.
I'm not sure if Calyx knows what sarcasm is, but...
No, I see him referring to us as a hero as a sarcastic thing, because he obviously thinks of himself as a hero.
Yeah, but considering themes at play, and this being equivalent to Shadowbringers, it doesn't really surprise me at all.
Here we go. We'd be able to harvest Aether from other reflections, like the first. We're going there next. And here we go. So, we're almost out of time. We actually are out of time, but do we want to save this conversation for next time? Because
Yes, because this is a can of worms that I need to talk about.
Okay.
I do have to point out as well, many things about it.
Yeah,
but don't start on this.
There's a lot that this did. There's a lot that this did over the past couple of weeks. So, a lot to discuss here, and a lot to talk about.
I will say that to me didn't really was shocking, this thing. I was like, okay, I got a bit more footing on something that I already suspected, but technically it doesn't really change with things that we were discussing about, you know? But anyways.
You have your opinions, we have ours.
Yeah, this for me changes a lot. So I know in the interview Yoshi P said it was from the 9th, but until it's in the game, it's not officially canon. So now that it is in the game, now we gotta wrap our heads around this, and
I have more stuff to say. We're saving that for next time.
Yes. So we will talk about this next time. We will be back next week to finish up talking about 7.2, and then after that we'll talk about the Arcadian, while I am neck deep in cosmic exploration. So thank you everybody for joining us, and we will see you again next week.
Other places.
We promise that we will have another video out soon. I actually just finished up the Orosite script, so that is ready to go. So we'll expect something soon.
Yes, we're going to have several videos soon. So
yes,
I'm still waiting for a certain script for it to be released.
Yes. Also, for those who are interested, we are going to be launching a Patreon. Free to sign up. But if you want to donate $1 to help cover some of our costs, we won't say no to that. But we'll post more information about that when it's ready. So thank you again, everybody, and we will see you next week.
See you.
See ya.